But I think the vision is bigger than that. The vision is to get you and I to have this conversation in Swahili. That would be amazing, right? But that will take time. And I think that's where translation comes in. Like I keep saying, imagine if a kid in Tanzania could read Diary of a Wimpy Kid in Swahili. That becomes powerful. Or any other book in Swahili. It becomes really powerful because language is powerful. It connects people.
You're listening to Speaking of Language, a podcast recorded at the Language Resource Center at Cornell University. Each week, we explore a topic related to language pedagogy and second language acquisition. This week on Speaking of Language,
we learn about the Safal-Cornell Kiswahili Prize, an initiative meant to proliferate African language writings across the globe.
Welcome to a new episode of Speaking of Language. I'm Angelica Kramer, the director of the Language Resource Center at Cornell University.
And I'm Sam Lupowitz, the LRC's media manager. Today, we meet with Anthony Ngana, a representative from the East Africa-based Safal Group. Anthony is here to discuss the Safal-Cornell Kiswahili Prize, an award to recognize writing and translations in African languages. We are excited to learn more about this prize and its goals.
Welcome to Speaking of Language, Anthony.
Thank you very much.
So before we dive into talking about the Kiswahili Prize, we'd love to hear about you and your background and your path with languages. What does that look like for you?
Wow. It's a long background. I am a civil engineer by profession that went into IT, then went into marketing.
Oh.
I worked for Procter & Gamble for a bunch of years.
Yeah.
Then from there, joined the Safal Group. And the Safal Group is actually, yes, we are our headquarters are in Kenya, in Nairobi, but we're an Africa-wide group. So we are in 10 countries today. So all of East Africa and into Southern Africa. And as a group, we pride ourselves in providing building solutions to our consumers. And what that means is we are renowned for roofing. So practically, we introduced steel roofing, metal steel roofing into the East African side of things and Southern Africa. And that has been our strength. On top of that, we do a lot of what people call ESG now. And within that, within our CSI or CSR, we have four pillars. So there is health, there's education, there's environment, and there's shelter. So within the education piece, we have technical institutes where we teach young kids that don't make it to university. We give them real skills so that when they graduate and walk out, they can get jobs.
Wonderful, yeah.
Then we also do Swahili. And the idea is we don't teach Swahili, but we are involved in Swahili because you don't have that many published Swahili authors. And our chairman, Mr. Sarit Shah, almost 10 years ago, had a meeting with a lady called Lizzie Atri, Professor Abdul Latif, and Mukoma Ngugi. And they came up with the notion of how do we expand the portfolio of published African authors in Swahili.
Yeah.
So new authors.
Yeah.
And hence the Kiswahili Prize was born almost 10 years ago. And every year we award the prize in literature and in poetry. And we've done, I think so far we've probably awarded 15, we have had 15 winners or thereabout.
Wow. Yeah.
And this year, we were very happy to have published a good chunk of them. Actually, all of them.
Wonderful,
we published a few books for every single one of them. And so that's how we've come to be involved with Kiswahili. And our desire is to get as many authors published as possible, but also get Kiswahili penetrated as a language in the world.
Yeah, wonderful. So you just mentioned that the prize was founded almost 10 years ago in 2014.
Yeah.
And what's really wonderful for me, the goal is to recognize writing in African languages and encouraging translation from between and into African languages.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about who can enter, what types of entries you are hoping to receive, and what you already mentioned a little bit about the larger goals of what you want to achieve, but maybe you can expand on that a little bit as well.
Yeah, and also we haven't, so the translation piece I think is still, that we haven't gotten there yet.
Okay.
We are still very much at the publishing. Anyone that has not been published before that can write in Swahili can enter. So there's no restriction.
Okay.
So anybody that has not been published, they're open to enter. And essentially, we are getting manuscripts so it's short stories essentially.
Sure.
And poetry. Those have been the two areas that we focused on, and that has been good. We've received numerous entries, and we get a lot of good entries. But as it is, you need a winner. So we like I think we probably over the last maybe 10 years, we would have received probably close to maybe 1,000 manuscripts.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, maybe 500 manuscripts.
Yeah.
But then we have to the judges have to be really diligent.
Of course.
To find something that really resonates. That'll be good for the audiences to read as well. But yes, so anybody that can write that has not been published before is welcome to. It doesn't matter what country you're in.
Okay.
We've had people submitting manuscripts from Germany.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So it's pretty wide.
Wonderful.
And it's an online entry.
Sure.
So you could enter from wherever you are.
Yeah. Great.
Terrific. What challenges have you faced in soliciting these writings? I'd love to hear about how you've met some of those challenges and how you hope to meet them more moving forward.
Yeah, I think one of the challenges has been, I think, writing for publishing is very different from just writing.
True.
So I think initially the manuals that came through are very raw, and a lot of work had to go in to try and really. So it made the work for the judges a little bit tougher.
Sure.
Because people would write in a very natural way. Well, when you write for publishing, it's a little bit different. So what we've done is we've held clinics or maybe sessions where we actually walk the potential writers and authors on how to write. And this has been good because I think the quality of the manuscripts is improving, which of course makes the work for the judges a lot easier. So that for me, I think would have been the biggest challenge. Now, the other challenge we have is we need to publish the books.
Yeah.
It's one thing for you to have many books written or many manuscripts. So you want to publish and you want to print or at least digitize them as well. Because our objective is to try and get as many books in people's hands. And of course, if you can't print the book, then it becomes difficult.
Sure. Yeah.
People argue that why don't you use the digital format, which is true, but not everybody, like for example, on the continent, will have access to the internet. So that becomes a bit of they may have access, but can they afford to download a book and that kind of thing? So I think quality of manuscripts, that's improving. What we now need to do is to make sure that we get the manuscripts, we publish and print to make sure that we can get as many people. Printing is expensive, so we need to find the resourcing for us to be able to print. This year we spent close to $30,000 printing books. We did about 8,000 books that are going to be distributed across universities and colleges in Tanzania and Kenya. But that's a drop of water in the mighty ocean. So I think we need help to make sure that we can get as many manuscripts published and eventually printed.
Yeah. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Do you work with a specific publisher on this, or is it self-published?
So we're working with a publisher because the Kiswahili, we have a board within the Kiswahili Prize that is chaired by Professor Abdul Latif. Professor Abdul Latif, I think, is one of the foremost Swahili writers in the world. And then there's a company in Tanzania called Mkuki na Nyota. So Mkuki na Nyota have been our publishing partner, and they do it for next to nothing. But even that is expensive. At the end of the day,
of course,
you still need to, they still need to it costs money to print and to publish at the end of the day. Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit more about the purchase and distribution of books when working with the publisher? What is the role of Cornell in this process? And what is the role of Safal and other African sources and contributors?
Yeah. So I think today, Cornell's role has been in getting us the judges. I think like if you look at the sausage machine, so the manuscripts come in, they need to be assessed,
Sure.
By a bunch of qualified judges.
Yeah.
And Cornell helps us with that. Then after that, we then as Safal Group, we host the awards. So we have an event where we announce the winners and award. The winners get $5,000
Nice.
each, and I think the runners-up will get about $3,000. And then once that's just part of it. Then once that is done, we take the manuscripts and get them properly, edited
Sure.
For publishing. We have we have a sponsor, not a sponsor, but we have our partners, Mkuki and Nyota, that I mentioned before, that would then do the publishing, and that is paid for by Safal Group.
Got it.
And that's what I was saying, that I think an opportunity lies in there in terms of if we can get more people interested in getting us to publish as many books as possible. I mean, to print as many books as possible. That comes in pretty handy.
Great.
The 8,000 odd books that we published this year, those are fully being given to universities, to tertiary institutions of education. We're distributing those books into both Tanzania and into Kenya for free, as a way to market the authors, and also to get those books out there.
Of course.
And of course, the intention is that I think I'm banging the table. The intention is that with time, then that creates a natural pool for these authors. But there's still a lot more work needed to get these authors out there. Because today, I mean, like if somebody publishes a book in Europe, in the US, they have road shows where they actually publicize the book.
Sure. Yeah.
So that people get to know. You get endorsements and that kind of thing. We haven't gotten there yet. And actually, one of the things that would be fantastic is if we could take 5 of the authors and just do a roadshow with them across Kenya and Tanzania, where people are actually reading Swahili.
Yeah.
Then that becomes interesting, because then people know them. You create the awareness, you create the marketing for them, you create the pool for the books. And that way,
Absolutely.
it becomes commercially viable for the authors. And also for the language, it's a good thing because you get the books out there. Yeah.
Absolutely.
But today what you're doing is all it's all philanthropic. Yeah.
And maybe in the future, we here at Cornell can encourage some of the students who participate in our Sweet Poetry event, where they read poetry in different languages. Maybe they can read some of the authors that you have published.
That would be brilliant. We had a discussion with Jackie from AID. And actually, one of the thoughts she had is apparently the students do have weekly conversation sessions.
Yep.
And one of the thought was, why don't we get them to read some of the books from the authors?
Yeah.
Then get them to discuss those books. But even better, bring some of those authors here.
Oh, yeah.
Then they get to interact with the kids. You get to shake hands with the person that wrote the book.
Absolutely.
Get into their mind.
Yeah.
But also they get to teach, because these are proficient Swahili speakers and writers.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I think those are the ideas we are looking for, because at the end of the day, it's a movement we are creating for Swahili.
Yep.
And it's not going to be linear. I think there'll be many parts that come together.
Yeah.
But as long as they come together in a coherent way,
Exactly.
then slowly but surely we build.
Yep.
And suddenly Swahili begins to permeate across the world.
There we go.
Yeah.
I like
Fantastic.
that. Yeah. So something else that I'm interested in hearing a little bit more, what is your perspective on the importance of multilingualism? How does the Safal-Cornell Kiswahili Prize hope to nurture multilingualism and appreciation of it?
Yeah. The fact that you and I are communicating is the fact that we both understand the same language.
Yeah.
I think language is powerful in connecting people. I think Africa is growing very quickly. I think, if you look at the stats that are published, it's going to be the biggest consumption in the future is going to come from Africa, just by virtue of the sheer number of populations that you're going to have over there.
Yeah.
I think anybody that wants to do business, for example, in Africa, being able to communicate in a language that people understand becomes extremely important.
Yes.
Kiswahili is one of the African Union official languages. So it's been identified as one of those.
Yeah.
So if there's one language that I think people should try and learn, it's Swahili. We already have 300 million speakers of Swahili, different dialects maybe, but generally Swahili across Africa. I think we can expand that to reach a lot more people. Because language is rich. I think there are many aspects to it. I think there's one which is a commercial aspect, but also there's one of heritage. Just
Sure.
really just nurturing history and culture. So I think language comes in very strongly in that sense, and hence why I think that the role that we play in trying to, if nothing happens beyond what we've done today, if the Kiswahili Prize remains as it is today, I think we will end up having lots and lots of manuscripts, possibly edited, maybe not published. But that in itself will be a big journey, because you're moving
absolutely.
from
Yeah.
having a very little database of published books to a slightly bigger one.
Yes.
But I think the vision is bigger than that. The vision is to get you and I to have this conversation in
Yeah.
Swahili.
Oh,
That'd be
there you go.
amazing,
Yeah.
Right? But that will take time. And I
Yeah.
think that's where translation comes in. Like I keep saying, imagine if a kid in Tanzania could read Harry Potter in Swahili,
Yeah.
or Diary of a Wimpy Kid
Yeah.
in Swahili.
Yeah.
That becomes powerful. Or any other book
Yeah.
in Swahili. It becomes really powerful because language is powerful. It connects people.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Anthony, where can our listeners find out more about the Safal-Cornell Kiswahili Prize, and when is the next deadline?
With regards to where they can find it, online, if you just Google Safal-Cornell Kiswahili Prize, before it used to be called the Mabati
Okay.
Cornell Kiswahili Prize. Mabati is our biggest company is called Mabati Rolling Mills, and initially the sponsorship was between Mabati and our sister company Alaf in Tanzania. But what we've done is we've elevated it and made it a group
Wonderful. Yep.
group prize. So it's now the Safal-Cornell Kiswahili Prize. So if you go online, you can find it. The deadline for the 2024 entries is already closed. Because now we're going through the judging process.
Of course.
Because the awards will happen sometime in end of January, early February. The next one is going to be announced. It's normally posted out so that everybody knows when it's going to happen. But it's
Okay.
probably going to be it will happen probably around April timeframe, give or take.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, listeners, we hope to receive many more new contributions for the 2025 competition.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, the challenge that and as I mentioned earlier on, I think it's a multi-pronged approach. So we need to digitize. We also need to print as many books as possible. We also need to look at how do we market these authors so that we drive awareness on their books. And last but not least, I think we also need to explore translation because if we can find a way to translate some of like a partnership with the author of Harry Potter, or Diary of a Wimpy Kid, or Chinua Achebe, or whoever it is, but get those books translated to Swahili.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think the impact will be incredible.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
it'll be incredible. You get lots more people reading, and especially on the continent.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wonderful. So we do have a curveball for you here.
yeah, it comes.
You might be ready for it, you might not. But is there a word in a language that you speak, that you love, that you are learning, that doesn't exist in English, but that you wish it did?
So gotire wairegi utoire. So what it means is amongst the Kikuyus, you had generations. And they had, so Wairegi is a generation, but then much older generation. And of course, over time, they die.
Yeah.
But the essence of it is, and Mokoma can definitely come in, is the fact that nobody lives forever. Eventually, your time comes, and it passes on, and the next generation comes along and takes on, and the process continues. So it was very important when people are discussing, just to, give you the feeling of don't for an instant think that you're going to be here forever.
Yeah.
Your time will come and it will pass, and others will come. Yes.
Nice.
Fantastic. Well, Anthony, thank you so much for speaking of language with us today. We really appreciate you sharing all of this with us.
Thank you very much.
Next week, Don Vosberg joins us to talk about gaming as a learning tool.
Until then,
Auf Wiederhören.
The Language Resource Center is located on the ground floor of Stimson Hall on Cornell's main campus in Ithaca, New York. Check us out on the web at lrc.cornell.edu.
or follow Cornell LRC on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Speaking of Language is produced by Angelica Kramer and Sam Lupowitz.
Recorded by Sam Lupowitz.
Original music by Sam Lupowitz, Dan Gable, and Joe Gibson.
Thanks also to the College of Arts and Sciences at Cornell University.
As a reminder, the ideas and opinions expressed on this podcast do not reflect those of the College of Arts and Sciences or any other official entity of Cornell University.
We thank our listeners, and do stay tuned for our next episode.